So let's examine the the curse and see if it holds up to any real investigation. Well, let's look at Lord Carnarvon first. So he died at 57. He died, a few months actually after the tomb was discovered. But you have to remember he was in poor health to begin with. That's why he actually went to Egypt, because of his poor health. So if you're a guy in poor health and then you have and then you get blood poisoning, and this is the day before antibiotics, you didn't really have a very good chance. All right, let's look at curses in Egypt. Well, curses are not very common on tombs, especially in the New Kingdom. You do have curses in the Old Kingdom. That's where this tomb dates to. It has a series of texts on it that are known by scholars as the pyramid texts. And when there are curses, a lot of times they're on non-royal tombs, and they curse someone in the afterlife, not in this life. So the curse is not an accurate reflection of the kinds of curses that you would actually have in Egypt. Well, let's look at some of the people who were most intimate with the tomb and King Tut. Howard Carter, if anyone was to have been punished by the curse of the mummy, it should have been Howard Carter, but he lived a full 17 years after the tomb was discovered. He worked 10 years every day on the tomb. He died at age 64 from lymphoma. As many people pointed out, this doesn't really seem like a rapid working of. If the curse was working, it didn't work very quickly. That's for sure. Lady Evelyn, you saw in the video, right? That's Carnarvon's daughter. She was there at the opening. Well, she died at 78 in 1980, so she lived a very long life. So again, she was one of the most intimate people with the tomb. Douglas Derry, who was in charge of taking the mummy's wrappings apart and kind of worked on the autopsy of Tut's mummy. Right, again, very very closely connected with the project, right? You would expect him to be killed right away. He died in 1969 at the age of 87. The British military officer who worked security for the tomb, Richard Adamson, he guarded the burial changer. He died in 1982 at a ripe old age. Right? James Randi, who's kind of a noted skeptic, looked at, as well as some more recent people like Mark Nelson, looked at this kind of statistically, right, and saw that there were dozens of people who are connected to the tomb who lived to a ripe old age, right, that the group who saw the tomb or were in charge, were part of the excavation, actually died at an average age of 73. And the average age of life after the discovery of the tomb was more than 23 years. Right? So on average, people who worked on the tomb died 23 years on average later. They lived to an average lifespan of 73, which was very good for that time. So it wasn't a very good curse if you're looking at its effectiveness, right? Mark Nelson even tried to look at the years of survival afterwards and to see, if exposure to the tomb, right, number of exposures to the mummy's curse, you can see there's no line there, right? It's not a positive correlation whatsoever. You can see it jumps up from 2 to 3. Obviously, it's not a large sample size. But then he also looked at the people exposed and unexposed and their survival, their age of death, right? So you can see age of death, the people who were exposed at 70, people who were unexposed 75, which is nothing. So The curse story was getting so much press that in 1934 an Egyptologist wanted to try to put it to rest. Right, so you could see, I mean, this article for the mummy's curse is only a couple of years old. So obviously this curse story keeps going around and around and around. Nothing really is able to kill it off, especially facts. But Herbert Winlock kind of made a very comprehensive list in the New York Times of all the people who were involved in the excavation, and talked about, majority of them were alive. I think it was like, so he had different categories, right? So the opening of the inner chamber, 22 persons were present, right? 6 are dead. All right. At the opening of the sarcophagus, 22 people were present. 2 were dead at 1934. The 10 who were present when the mummy was unwrapped, right? All were alive at 1934. Right? You expect those ones to be the ones that were really cursed. Other people who were said to be cursed, right? Colonel Aubrey Herbert, never in the tomb. Professor LaFleur of McGill University only saw this as a tourist. H.G. Evelyn White, one of the other people we talked about, was never in Egypt. So there are all these people who were never in Egypt, that their death was sort of blamed on the curse for publicity's sake. Prince Ali Bey, right? He was born in Egypt, but he didn't actually go to the tomb, as we said before, right? Lord Westerbury was never in the tomb, right? But he was upset over his son's death. Okay, well, let's take a look at mummies in film. Aaron spoke about this a little bit, but I wanted to kind of mention it a little bit more, some of my sort of favorite mummy movies, and then I have a couple of clips for you guys to watch. Sort of a little compilation of some of the trailers for mummy movies, and then the more recent clip of mummies in popular culture. So I'm going to stop here so you can watch those clips, and then we'll come back.